Well, good evening. This is Duan, and this is our usual kind of drop in about what's happening at Mid Valley Fellowship tonight. Call it Experiencing Mid Valley Fellowship. And I did, just to reference a video earlier in the day, I did bring our little kind of stress guys along. They're awesome. They aren't going to be juggled because I can't do that, even though Chris can. But anyway, they're nifty little cell phone holders, and they can hold your cell phone, and then they also are a stress ball, and they have a little thing to clean your phone as well. Whoops, dropped one of them. But they're also fun to just squish and play around with. So if you need one of those, they do say Mid Valley Fellowship on the back and help people know about who we are. So if you need one of those for your office or your home office, or just because it sounds interesting, you can feel free to email Jennifer at midvalleyfellowship.org, and she'll be more than happy to hook you up with one. So anyway, that's the token kind of comment about them. But tonight we actually have, I was looking over the list of topics for tonight, and I was like, man, we actually have a lot of heavy topics tonight. It feels like at this time of year, kind of as we get farther into the program year, that there tend to be a little bit heavier topics than what we maybe do. Not that any of our topics are light, but certainly there's some heavier ones that come. And so tonight I'm going to be teaching a lesson called Learning to Face the Pain. There's the reality that when it comes to addiction and other forms of sexual acting out, a lot of times it's about medicating pain, about the difficult things that we've experienced in life, the woundedness, the loss, all those different things that can cause us to look for a way to feel better. And so we're going to talk about what does it look like to actually face the pain and encounter Jesus in the midst of that, and how do we address the beliefs that we take from those experiences that we've had. And it's usually a mixture of things that maybe it's things that I've experienced, wounds that I've experienced that were outside of my control. And then sometimes also there's things that maybe I engaged in that cause pain as well, that are consequences of my actions. But either way, there's a necessity to grieve losses, to forgive, to experience forgiveness, to own the things that we need to, but not own the things that we don't, and to navigate through that, which can be a really challenging thing. I've been in Mending the Soul the last couple weeks, and that's part of what we've been talking about a little bit is there's shame that survivors of sexual abuse experience. And so what does it look like to not own that, but to own the things that I do need to? So learning to face the pain is one of the topics we're going to be covering. And then also tonight, understanding addiction and healing. So what does it look like? What does addiction look like? What does healing look like? How do we navigate that? That's for spouses. And then in Mending the Soul, which is for survivors of sexual abuse, they'll be talking about powerlessness and deadness. How that certainly whenever you're navigating some of these things that you can feel powerless, and that there can be a deadening of emotions and all those pieces. And so what does it look like to navigate through that with God? And in second year, they're going to be talking about families and continuing with that conversation of how do family dynamics and the things that we learned, whether it's different rules or roles or ways that we manage stress, that we kind of learn those things sometimes directly, sometimes by just what we observe. And so we interpret what we experience in our families, and we tend to apply that or react against that either way. But it tends to shape the way we see the world. And so they're going to be talking about that as well. And also in second year for spouses, they're going to be talking about unhealthy anger. And so it is okay to feel angry, but a lot of times we act out of our anger, and that's not so good. So anyway, those are some of the topics we're going to be hitting tonight. We continue to press in with people. We continue to have the hard conversations, and really in the midst of all of it, help people encounter Christ. I mean, that's the goal, is that in healing, we really need God ultimately. And so we value your prayers because this is a spiritual battle. There are these things that we can internalize and believe and hold on to and live out of, sometimes for a lifetime. And it can be very difficult to stop and look to kind of be counterintuitive, like learning to face the pain. It's like, well, I want to avoid pain. I don't want to encounter that. I don't want to face what's there. But there's a necessity to do that in order to experience healing. I like to use the metaphor a lot, which doesn't originate with me, but how physical wounds can be similar to emotional wounds, in that if someone stabbed you in the arm and you go to the hospital to have that dealt with, they're not going to, if it's a good hospital, they're not going to just leave the knife in your arm and kind of just give you morphine and send you home. They're going to they're gonna have to pull that out, which is going to be painful, and they're going to have to clean the wound out, which is painful. But then whenever they've done those things and dressed the wound, which also can be painful, then healing can begin. And and it's the same thing with emotional wounds, that as God removes those things out of our wounds and helps clean those out, that then we can experience healing. And it's a long road in that, but ultimately what we end up with is better than what we had before. So anyway, we value your prayers, and appreciate you partnering with us in that, and in all the other ways that you partner as well. A reminder again, if you're just now joining the video, if you need a little stress ball, you can email Jennifer at midvalleyfellowship.org, and she'd be more than happy to send you one. So anyway, thanks for being here, and we will see you next week.